Once again, and welcome to Interfaith Spiritual Center Worldwide. And we know that nothing happens by chance, that we're all here by divine appointment, aren't we? And I say this to our viewing audience, that if you tuned in at this moment, this message is for you. And this whole month is really looking at the magic of the season, the birth of Christ consciousness. Whatever we conceive that consciousness to be, it's a consciousness of love. Whether we call it Christ consciousness, the birth of that energy within the manger of our own heart and soul, whether we call it the Buddha nature, whether we call it the holy I am presence, that when Moses looked into the burning bush and said, "Who are you? What are you?" the voice of I am answered, "Cast off your shoes, for where you stand is holy ground." And what that means is that there is nothing and no thing that stands between us and our spiritual knowing. None of this outer stuff that would grab our attention, would give our power away to people, places, and things outside of us. And there is a lot going on the planet at this time. It needs our clarity, because clarity is power. It needs our love, which is the strongest healing power in the universe. And when we were talking about what one person can do, is just to know the truth, that all of this outer stuff, war, rumor of wars, and all of this energy out here is not the real world. The real world is within us. Outer is the relative world of conditions, appearances, and effects. And we get confused. We give our power away to the stuff out here, when there is a power and a presence within us that can change the world. And I remember when there was a war. It was Croatia, and it was the Serbs. It was all this stuff going on. It was about 30 years ago. And I remember that Mother Teresa declared with her little sisters of charity that on Christmas Day that they were going to walk across this incredible battlefield, and they were going to walk into an orphanage and take care of the children. So she declared a ceasefire. And on Christmas Day, she and her sisters of charity marched through the battlefield into the orphanage to take care of those children. The battle, I want you to know, there was a complete ceasefire. Not one bullet was fired. She had made a declaration into the law of mind that on Christmas Day, this is how it's going to be, and absolutely put her life on the line for that ideal. And that ideal became a reality, and that reality became children. And those children grew and were unfolding. Those children will remember that the rest of their lives, 30 years older. So today, as we look at the spirit of life, which is totally and completely, we are so open to that message today, that there is a spirit of life. And in Deuteronomy, in the Old Testament, it says, "Behold, I set before thee a blessing and a curse, life and death. Choose life." We're about choosing life. All kinds of things are set before us. There's doubt, fear, lack, limitation, scarcity. Behold, I set before thee a blessing or a curse. Life and death. Choose life. So today we're about choosing life. We're about making a difference in our own individualized way with the only thing that we have, and that is our consciousness. So we make that journey every day from the head to the heart, the 18-inch journey, the longest journey on the planet, to embody it within our heart and to really feel it, and to know that every loving thought is true according to the Course in Miracles, and everything else is a call for healing or help regardless of the form it takes. And sometimes those forms are very difficult to digest. Sometimes those forms are just, and I say incredible, because to me, when it's unbelievable, incredible, that things that go on in a negative nature, if it's fabulous and wonderful and we say, oh, it's unbelievable, we negate it. But when we say, it's amazing, thank you, Father, Mother, God, I give gratitude for this amazing blessing, rather than neutralizing with, oh, it's unbelievable, then, you know, why did you pray for it if it's unbelievable, right? So we're embodying at a higher frequency of energy. And remember what Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of life, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. That it's not about personalities, however, it does look like personalities. I posted something on Facebook about, love the people that love you, forget those that don't treat you right, and that life presents itself with many gifts, say yes to that gift. And someone said, well, I'm going to reframe that, and I'm going to love the people that don't treat me right, too. And I thought, it's not about not loving them. It's about, I no longer have a need for self-infliction, the emotional need for self-punishment when we put people in our personal sphere that don't support us, that judge us, that criticize us. We don't need to do that to ourselves anymore. We can drop that, because that is an energy that we brought with us. That was from childhood. And we know that we all have our stories from childhood. So to love yourself is to surround yourself with people who love you, who affirm you, that acknowledge you, that empower you, that see you. Because when we see each other, we see that Christ consciousness. We see that energy of love. We see that Buddha nature, the holy I am presence. That's really seeing one another. Today is the anniversary, 30th anniversary, of someone in my congregation in San Diego. I had a huge congregation in San Diego, 3,000 people showing up every week. And there was someone that wanted to see me. And he wrote me a little note. And so and I knew him as Carl Silverman, and he wanted to see me, and he said it was urgent. So he wanted to see me on a Friday, which was the day, it's my God day, that I took for myself. And I lived in Coronado at the time, and so I made an exception, and I had him come to my home in Coronado, and he sent me all these newspaper clippings of someone named Carl Johnson, who robbed an Albany bank in Chicago, and the FBI had been after this person for 7 years, and I just went through that. Why is he, having me read this? It's just kind of boring, and what do I, it's something that happened. So he came and he knocked, on the door, and I suddenly got it, that this man that I knew as Mr. Silverman was probably Carl Johnson, who the FBI was after for 7 years. Now, when you steal money, in case you want this information, from a bank, it's federal, and there's no statute of limitations, the 7 years. They will be after you forever. He stole $650,000 30 years ago from an Albany bank in Chicago. He was the controller of the bank. His life was not going well. His marriage wasn't going well. He didn't feel valued. He didn't feel like there was a sense within himself. And he thought, this money is going to do the trick. And so he stole the money, and he had to hide out. He couldn't make himself known to his twins, who were 7 years old at the time. He's been on the run now for 7 years. They're now 14. The wife, after 7 years, had him declared deceased so she could get the insurance money. The parents didn't, they just feel that my son is gone and probably died. It's probably mafia originated. And so I'm reading this, and he comes to the door, and I say to my assistant, would you please take Trisha, my daughter at the time, who was a little girl, I'd take her upstairs, right? And I said to Marilyn, my assistant, this is the man that stole $650,000 from the Albany Bank in Chicago, and I just know that this is what this is about. So just take Trisha upstairs. And I hear Trisha say, come on, Marilyn. Well, at least he's not a murderer. And they're going upstairs. Kids. She's looking at the bright side. And so I'm sitting with him, and I'm saying, obviously, this is you. And he said, yes. And you've been on the run for 7 years. He said, yes. And he said, your talk on Sunday so hit me when you said, can you genuinely look into the mirror and see who's reflected back to you with love? And he said, I cannot. And he began to cry. And he said, I've been operating under all these aliases, And I went to Las Vegas, I'm trying to get rid of the money. I said, well, thought to myself, we're a worthy cause, but I didn't. He said, I've buried money in conservation parks, like in Cincinnati and various places, in various states. And I'm tired of running. And I cannot genuinely look myself in the mirror and see who's gazing back at me with love and approval and the energy that I'm a child of God. But you said that I am a child of God. I said, the truth is, you did something, you did it out of not feeling worthy, not feeling deserving, thinking that this was going to be my answer. And it wasn't your answer. Money is not the answer. Money is a byproduct of our lives, and it's wonderful because it does great things. My dear friend Luann Mitchell gave $1 million to Robert Schuller in his hour of power, and you made a tremendous difference. I just love that you did that. And so as we put that out there, it's a byproduct of consciousness. It's a byproduct of who and what we are, and the money does come. And it's like when you race after it, 5 years ago I was nominated for the Palm Springs Walk of Stars. They said, oh, and you can fundraise for the $10,000 to have your star. And I thought, vanity of vanities, if I'm going to fundraise, it's going to be for Interfaith Spiritual Center worldwide, not for some star on the Walk of Stars. So I can, feel like I'm something. I feel like I'm something, and I don't need that to reflect back to me. But at my 40th anniversary in the ministry last month, I got a call last spring from the Palm Springs Walk of Stars that someone anonymously donated $10,000 for me to have my star on the Palm Springs Walk of Stars. And and that's my 40th anniversary. So to me, that was meaningful. And they said it's anonymous. And they don't want you to know anything, because I said, is it local? Is it San Diego? Kind of putting my feelers out. They said they did not want you to know anything. And I said, so it's from God, and whatever channel, whatever expression, whatever avenue it came through, it was from God, and I receive it from God. And so it was just an amazing day, wasn't it? It was just an absolutely amazing, amazing day. And I just loved, my daughter gave a little talk, and she said, what you may not know about my mother is that she is a cross between Lucille Ball and Elizabeth Taylor. And she went on to, share her experience of growing up with Mom, right? So when we're looking, at the money aspect of it, he had this little box, and he had a girlfriend in the congregation. And he lifted the box, and it was a music box, and it played If I Were a Rich Man. And he still did not feel rich, that the $650,000 did not do it for him. So he said, what should I do? I said, well, I don't really give advice, but my counsel to you is surrender. You need to surrender to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You need to surrender to the FBI. And he said, I just need to breathe for a minute. And he was breathing. And I said, you're on the run. There's no place you can go. You'll see your twins, who are now 14 and a half years old. You'll see your folks. What life do you have now? He said, I don't have a life. So I called an attorney friend of mine in San Diego. His name was Sam, and I told him the story, and he said, well, send him over here. I will have to charge him. He'll have to find some of that money. And so somehow he did. And we flew to Chicago with Carl Johnson. And we went into the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. Now you have to realize, this is 30 years ago. I'm looking pretty hot. And I walk in my outfit, and I introduce the FBI. I can say that, I'm 71 now. So I can say that, can I? I say, I'd like to introduce Carl Johnson, who's been a fugitive for 7.5 years, who stole $650,000 from the Albany Bank in Chicago, Illinois, is surrendering today. And that looks on the FBI's face. Now you got to realize they're after him for 7.5 years. Here's this little minister prancing in and introducing and saying he's now going to surrender. So as I went to talk to Carl, they said, you may not speak to the fugitive. Excuse me? Didn't we just fly in and I introduced you? No, he is now under, federal whatever law. So I say to Sam, please tell Carl, now, we're all together in this, right? Please tell Carl that I will go to his parents' home and share with them that he lives and he's alive and well. So Carl says to Sam, tell Dr. Sharron, thank you. And so Sam goes, and Carl, he says, thank you. So we're playing this ridiculous little game because the FBI is not real pleased that they were after him for 7.5 years, and I prance in, and he surrendered. But there's a higher court, isn't there? There is a higher court. We go to Dickens Street. Now Sam says, this is eerie. This whole thing's out of Dickens. I mean, he sold $650,000. He's been on the run for 7.5 years. We're flying here. I mean, he says, this whole thing is Dickens-esque. It's Dickens Street. We find the parents. They are curators at a Methodist church. We climb just like forever, spiral staircase. I knock on the door and I say, who is it? And I said, this is Reverend Sharron Stroud from San Diego, California, and I've come to tell you that your son, Carl, is alive and well and has surrendered to the FBI. And I hear this, and the door opened, because she wasn't going to open the door. She goes, oh my God. We thought our Carl was dead. 7.5 years we have not heard from our Carl. We knew he stole the money and he was part of the mafia. I said, no, actually he did this on his own. The mafia had nothing to do with it. He thought this was going to make his life something wonderful to have money. And it was not a blessing, it was a curse. Behold, I set before thee a blessing and a curse. Life and death. Choose life. I said, Carl has chosen life today. And I went in and the father had a heart attack and he was propped up and he was crying and the mother was crying and there was just such a relief. And I said, you'll be reunited with Carl next week when they go through all of the processing. And we just sat and had tea and I shared that he had this revelation that he no longer could look at himself in the mirror. The spirit of life grabbed hold of him and he decided to choose life. And he left me the little jewelry box that I gave to his girlfriend with a letter in it. If I were a rich man. So we know that there is a spirit, mind, and body relationship. And that we are enriched by virtue of the fact that we were born into this planet and we have a relationship as co-creators with our God self. Love waits on welcome, right? Not on time, of course. Love waits on welcome, not on time. So when we open to the love that we're seeking, that which we are seeking is seeking us. So the spirit of life, and with everything going on the planet, for us to keep our consciousness at a high place, because what did the psalmist say? None of these things move me. I am in a high place, and I will not come down. And let me tell you, there's a lot of people, and they've got their, stuff going on, and it looks like people, places, and things. It's energy. And when that energy comes at us from personalities, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that there is an energy there that I need to deal with. Though 1,000 at my right hand and 10,000 at my left, it will not come near me. I am in a high place and I will not come down. I will not lower my vibratory frequency and I will not hate you. I am I and you are you. And if by chance we find each other, it's beautiful. And if not, it can't be helped. It's about energy. Do I love you? Yes. Do I want you in my personal energy field? No. That's not a vibrational frequency I relate to. So go with God, but by all means go at that moment, because there is not a vibrational match. And I had, a wonderful experience of one of my students that was working someplace, and and they were mistreating him and disrespecting him, and he just went in, and out of that he surrendered. I said, let's just treat and surrender. He got a call from another company, and they offered him much more money, and he went in and he just said, I need to tender my resignation because this is not a vibrational match. And the guy goes, huh? What is, it's not what? It's not a vibrational match. In other words, it's not a good fit. I got it. The universe plucked him out of that situation into something fabulous. He went to Italy. He's going all over the world with the company that he was formerly employed with that was sold, and the new owners looked at this man and thought, we got to get him back. He was fabulous. And I'm talking about my son-in-law, so I know from whence I come. And he's just having a wonderful, wonderful experience. So when we're about the spirit of life, we're about what works. And yes, we're on the solution level of what doesn't work. And to use compassion. And I am compassionate. And believe me, I've been in public life 45 years. I've gotten it all. I got the ads with horns on it. It said, 666 written across my picture and all of that. Because our way of life is all-inclusive. Our way of life opens the space. And as we open the space to allow God to do what God does best, God always does. I of myself can do nothing, but it is the energy within that does the work. It is that presence, that power, that life, the spirit of life. And at those moments of sadness, and we all have them, and we go within and we're feeling it, and we truly feel it, and to allow ourselves to feel the feelings, and then to realize that this too shall pass. But my love, my truth, my energy will never, ever pass away. It's about